Everyone has a good story to tell, and you know it is a good story when the person leans in and says, "See, what had happened was," and then tells the story.
This podcast provides those opportunities to tell those types of stories in education. The stories will be from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We wanted to do this podcast to showcase stories in education and to give flowers to educators who deserve recognition for their excellence.
Our guests will feature parents, students, teachers, administrators, and just about anyone who is involved in education. These stories will inspire you, challenge you, and help you to reflect on your practice of education, whether it be from the inside of the classroom or outside.
If you have a good story to tell, we'd love to hear it. Email us at contact@andredoughty.org. We'd love to have you or your story on a future episode. See What Had Happened starts now. Welcome to See What Had Happened. We're your co-hosts, Danielle and Andre Daughty. If this is your first episode tuning in, thanks for dropping by. We've got several episodes for you to laugh and listen. Hey, there are stories from the good, the bad, and everything in between. If you've been following along and are friends of the podcast, welcome back. You are officially a part of the family.
And then let's say just shout out to all the people who have been following the journey. And if you're not, we're on YouTube. We're on all of the places where podcasts could be located as well.
Awesome. Today we have a special guest joining in on the fun, Mr. Winfred Burns. Hi,
What's
Winfred.
up, man?
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for both for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
And congratulations. This is a long time coming. So
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, we know who you are, man. Because, I mean, come on. We Langston days and all of that. And you were right there with us during our wedding. So we go back long time. But for the other viewers, tell them a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so Winfred Burns II, as Dre said, a graduate of Langston University with a degree in finance. So I've been working in finance and banking since then, educating first in banks, managing banks as an investment banker, as a business banker, and then went on to develop my own programming to help individuals and businesses with their money. And then from there, went into radio and podcasting with The Scoop, with Kels Johnson and Shaquila Willis. And in the midst of all of that, still been doing the good church ministry. So I'm also a pastor. So I do a little bit of everything. So that's who I am. Of course, I'm a father. I'm divorced. So I'm a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, lots of layers. We love it.
And those layers actually matter because that's who you are. That builds the character and all the other things, man.
Absolutely.
Every show has a funny story, a meaningful story, some interesting story. And before you go into that story of to see what had happened, it's always a setup. So set up this story for us. Is this you when you were a student? Is this you as a parent over your son? Set up the story for us real quick.
Yeah, so this story was in college. So this was my sophomore year in college. I had just the previous semester joined our Gamma Phi Delta Christian fraternity. And in the process of that, somebody for some reason decided to put me over orientation.
Okay.
And so there was one particular night where the brothers were not, I guess, they were hearing some things that I had been doing that were very unconventional. And so we had a meeting. And so in this meeting, they came as a part of so for those who don't know, as a part of our process, there's no, hazing or hitting or anything like that. But we do Bible studies, and then we do like getting to know you stuff. Let me just say that. So we were doing some getting to know you things that were a little more than what people were used to. And so I had a visit from the older bros one night who were coming to tell me that what I was doing was a tad bit too much for the Christian fraternity.
Yeah.
And so what wound up happening is I told them, I said, listen, I said, here's what I'm going to do. I said, y'all watch tonight. And if y'all don't like it, y'all can have it. I will quit. I'll give it back to you. I don't, as a matter of fact, I don't need this. I don't need this. They were waking me up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't need any of this. Mm-hmm. And so that night, the brothers, the guys who were online, had a really good night of chemistry where really through them, they taught us what it meant to be brothers. So I had them do this exercise. I told them they had to stand in a straight line and there could only be 2 people's feet that touched the ground, or 2 legs, 2 feet that touched the ground. And somehow they made this bridge across themselves that they were all able to hold each other up. Mm-hmm. Literally putting one on top of the other. They were holding each other's legs. And it was like this amazing moment where we all went from arguing and crying, or arguing to crying. And we were all looking at each other like, I don't know how they did that, but man, I love you. I love you, man. You all right? And so it was just a really fun time that made us kind of bond and come together over watching them. So yeah, that was my story.
And so explain to our listeners what makes the orientation process of a fraternity or sorority important. Because perhaps some of our listeners have never been in a fraternity or sorority, or maybe they've just only seen it on like Animal House, or they've seen it on Monsters University, and they really don't understand the process of what actually happens, where you get the brotherhood, the sisterhood.
Yeah, so the process is really designed, as you said, to take a bunch of people who really don't know anything about each other, and number one, to get them to become one team, and then number two, to give them the major or the main purposes of your organization. So in ours, it was community service, discipleship, and of course, learning the Bible and learning the Word of God and being effective people in the gospel. So we were, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take all of these guys who have their own, or women in the sorority have their own ideas of who they are, and you're trying to show them like the difficulties or of kind of maybe the ugly parts of their personality, and say, listen, sometimes you have to get beyond yourself in order to work together for the sake of the mission of this organization. And so that's really the purpose of it. It's not to, it's really just not to harm anybody. It's just to say, listen, this is what we're about. We're about, community service. We're about discipleship. We're about evangelism. And so in order to do that, you've got to work as a team. So that's the main focus.
That's the main focus. And so when you hear of the stories of fraternities and sororities saying, oh, that's my brother, now you understand. When they say, oh, that's my sister, that's my line sister, it's because chances are they went through some things officially where they bonded and they became more sisterly or brotherly. And so in this situation here, the older people who are already in the organizations, they didn't like the way that you were leading. Is that what was happening?
Correct. They didn't like the way I was doing it, because it was, we were, of course, only the second line to come through that chapter. Yeah. Okay. And so it was very new. Previously, before, it was only, like I said, it was really just scripture memory and Bible studies. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. Let's figure out a way that we can, add some more physical activity to do that. Because, you're talking about a group of men. So how many days can we sit around and quote John 3:16? It's like, right. This is kind of boring. Let's figure it out. So we, so I added some things and, figured some stuff out and saw some stuff over here and said, well, let's try this, and saw some stuff over here. This look from this, I heard about at this camp, and was like, well, let's figure that out. And we really had no idea what we were doing. Yeah. We just knew that, that these guys needed something, and it was our job to give it to them. We knew that they needed to become a part of this group, that they wanted to be a part of this group. And some of them were, a little arrogant, and some of them were needed some confidence. So how at the same time, how do you give confidence from some and kind of help humble others to bring everybody to a place where everybody kind of understands that they're valued at the same place? So it's a tricky, it's just like leading in a classroom or leading in any other setting. You have to figure out how to kind of I don't want to use the word maneuver, but almost maneuver each personality to get out of them what you need to get. And so, it's just a feel, and we just kind of felt our way through it.
Yeah.
So, with you being a change agent, if you will, do you think that you were a trendsetter for the next person who was the dean of pledges, or
Absolutely. Absolutely. And encourage them, because one of the guys in that group became the next dean. And so actually two of them. And so they took some things and added some things to it and made it their own. And so it was really, again, the goal, we all had the same goal, but the idea was, listen, we want to make this as fun and engaging and challenging as possible, because this is a part of the collegiate experience.
Right.
People who want to be, want to be there, is to say that I've developed this bond of brothers or sisters, and as a unit, we have gone through these things together, and the result of it is 20 years later, me and some of those guys are still friends, and we still have those stories, and we still, not just of that process, but the things that we were able to accomplish afterwards.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of that, like that is leadership 101. When you see that you are in front of a character, a lot of different characters, and you're saying, this person over here is dealing with X. How can I give my best of myself to help them persevere through X? This person over here needs Y. This person over here needs Z. How can I, as leader, address each situation individually, but at the same time, address it collectively? So when they go through someone who has a situation of X, they now have at least one or two strategies to help through X.
Absolutely.
And then the old heads is like, we don't like the way your leadership is going. We don't like it.
Why are you doing this? And again, I get it. I think as trendsetters, or anybody who's new does something first, has to realize you're going to take bullets.
Yes.
You're going to take the bullets, because what you're doing is different. It's new. And everybody, and change is always going to be scary. It's always going to, it's like, hey, it was, especially if it was working, like it worked the last time. Why are we trying to do something different? And the reality is that leadership requires us to always be looking for better.
Yeah.
It's like, even if we're good, we still got to figure out, how do we get better? And that was really all I was trying to do, was say, how do we get better?
Yeah. And in the end, they ended up getting better, because it appears two of the people from that line became the dean of pledges of orientation, and then they used your strategies and your ideas and mixed it with their personality and their thoughts to do the exact same thing.
So, Winfred, looking back at that story, what advice would you give to other people who are in that role?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, do a better job of communicating what you're doing than I did. I did not, on my end, I did a terrible job of communicating what I was trying to do, in part because I really didn't know. I just knew that it needed to be different. So a lot of the things that I did were on the fly. So I would say, if you're going to make a change and you have a group of people around you, do your due diligence to at least explain what you're trying to do. So that way you kind of keep down on some of the confusion. And then along the way, again, be prepared to take bullets, be prepared to be wrong, be prepared to, to try something and it failed and be like, oh, let's reverse course. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
But be prepared to do that, because that is really all, especially now as an entrepreneur, that is all really entrepreneurship is. It is trying something, it don't work, saying, okay, let's, tweak it or change it or throw it away, and so I would say to somebody, like, keep doing that. Don't get upset if something fails. I've learned to see failure as a good thing. I always say, if you're going to fail forward.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a position where you can learn a lesson from it, where you can learn what not to do, what you should learn to do next time. Learn what your strengths and weaknesses are. Learn what your endurance is. Learn the things. If it's in a company setting, what you need to staff. Staff your weaknesses. And so I would say that's a couple of things I would say to anybody else who's in that type of position.
Yeah.
Listen, I like what you said there. Be prepared to be wrong. I'm just playing. No, that's a good word right there.
And then be prepared to take the bullets, because the bullets are going to come when people are used to the norm, when people are used to it should be this way, this is what it looks like because whatever reason, and you are trying to insert something new. You just got to have that thick skin and be prepared to metaphorically take some bullets.
Absolutely.
Some of the best educators in the world are people you've never heard of. They may not be on TV or get the National Teacher of the Year awards, but we want to give those teachers their flowers today. With that said, we present Sprout Outs. Sprout Outs is sponsored by Pinky and Paws Petals. All right, Winfred, who would you like to sprout out on this episode?
Oh, wow. So a couple of them. So I'm going to start my way back. So the first one I'd like to say is Dr. William B. Garcia. So Dr. Garcia was the head of music department at Langston University. He is in part the reason why I went to Langston. The reason I want to sprout him out is so Dr. Garcia was the first person at Langston University to identify and call out the greatness in me. He literally said to me in front of the choir, I expect a lot from you. And so because I expect a lot from you and I know who you are, I'm going to make sure that the greatness that's in you comes out. And so he would make me, before every performance, he would make me pray for everybody, for the choir. He would hold me accountable, and he would just look out for me. And so I really appreciated that. The second one would be Jim Wallace. Rest in peace. Mr. Wallace was the man at Langston, especially if you're around the School of Business. And Wallace had a way of cussing me out and encouraging me at the same time. But Wallace, what he did was, so after I switched to from science to business, Wallace would always say the hard thing to me. Wallace told me, he said, "Your son, you're gonna be good, but you're fat. You need to lose." I'm like, "Dang, man, can't you just say that a little night? Like, you gotta." But that was the type of person he had. But there was never an interview that I didn't know about. There was never a semester where I wasn't being checked on, where we weren't going to lunch, and he was making sure I was doing well. And so I got to give a shout out to Jim Wallace. The third one I want to say would be Dr. Sterling Culp. Culp was also my high school choir. He was the choir person in high school. The thing that I loved about Culp was Culp believed in excellence. And I mean, in every area. So every dance move, yes, I used to dance in show choir. Every note, even down to the way his appearance. We would always laugh because Culp was so sharp. He never wore the same thing twice in a school year. He was just that cold with it. And so for a Black man to believe in that level of excellence and to encourage us to all go after our dreams was impeccable. Culp, and here the thing that Culp did for me was when I told him I was going to college, he literally went into his own bookshelf and gave me all of his books that he had and said, "Listen, I want to give this to you because I know that you're going to do something well with them." So those are three of the teachers who have greatly impacted my life. I mean, I had a lot more, but those are three I could think of off the top.
And shout their names out one more time for us.
So Dr. William B. Garcia, Jim Wallace, and Dr. Sterling Culp.
Shout out to them.
Hey, now, Winfred, we've been knowing each other a long time. So the last young man, Dr. Culp.
Yes.
Did he inspire you? I remember you on campus and you used to wear suits all the time. Now, did he inspire you to do that?
No, that was actually probably my dad, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that was Pops that did that. Being in business in corporate America, it was just handle your business. And so it was always, you dress for the job that you want, not the one that you have. Okay. And so, yeah. So it was suits and it was business casual.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's what yeah.
We believe when one wins, we all win. And we want to help you win, Winfred. How can others follow you, plug any and everything that you have?
Absolutely. So first of all, I agree with you. When one wins, we all do win. So I would plug, of course, if you want to follow me on social media, you can at Winfred Burns II on all social media. If you go to my Facebook page, there is a sign up button on that page you definitely want to click. When you click that button, what you're going to get is you'll be enrolled in my email list where I'll give you my Money Mentor budget workbook, which is the tool I use to help people create budgets and plans to help them get out of debt and create wealth. So you can follow me there. Also, where else can you follow? You can follow me at Scoop, Real Scoop Show on Facebook and on YouTube. That's where you can find the Scoop Show on Facebook again and on YouTube with me, Q, and Kels, where we talk about anything where our mission is to change a generation by raising the conversation. So you can follow us there. And yeah, that's it. Those are the two places.
If you have a story you'd like to share, just like Winfred, go ahead and email us at contact@andredoughty.org. We love to hear your story and use it on our show. If you are perhaps shy and you don't want to tell us the story like Winfred, you can still email it to us. We'll read it. We'll discuss it. We'll share it. We'll analyze it. We'll laugh. We'll cry. We'll do all those things.
And remember, we will keep the person anonymous.
Absolutely. Because that's what we do.
So go ahead and spill the tea. Okay.
Yeah, spill it. Let us know. No. Homies, you've reached the end of yet another episode. We really appreciate you checking in with us and hanging out with us as we talk to Winfred. You can connect with us on YouTube and see any of the other previous episodes, or you could go to any place where all the podcasts are located, and that's where all the episodes will be right there. Don't forget to join us on the next time of See What Had Happened.
Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcast.